Hello everybody and welcome to another video. So you have watched my faction explained video for Warhammer the Old World. You finally picked a faction to jump into and you want to know what you want to do next. So continue my little guide for new players getting into Warhammer the Old World. We're going to talk about your next stage, what you do once you've picked your faction. So get a brew, get comfortable, and let's jump in. Okay, so you have made that hard decision. You have finally picked your faction and you need to know what to do to get into it. So there are a number of little ways you want to do this, and I'm just going to go do a little quick video as a little bit of a guide. Now, obviously this depends on which faction you have chosen. I'm mostly going to be using the Grand Cathay as an example for this, but just a quick one on the Tomb Kings and the Bretonnians. The vast majority of your first step into Warhammer the Old World will literally be buying the army box for either of those two factions, which are absolute fantastic deals. In fact, what we'll do is we'll jump over and we'll have a little look at one of those boxes. So here we are, the army box or the launch box for the Bretonnians. And why is this box a really good box to start off with for your army? The same with the Tomb Kings, but these two stand out a little bit because they're the only two launch boxes that the Old World got. So the reason why, if you have chosen to do one of these two factions, this is probably your best starter point to start, is because not only do you get a little self-contained army in a box, you also get the rule book. So the only other thing that you need to get is your army book as a whole, and we'll have a little look at that in a second. So basically this gives you an army. I think it works out to be nearly 1,000 points, if not just over 1,000 points by the time you get everything built. And what's really good is you get the hero on the mount, so you basically get a duke or a baron on a royal Pegasus. You get your men-at-arms, you get your bowmen, you get your 2 units of Knights of the Realm, and you get a unit of Pegasus Knights. This is a fantastic starter, and obviously you get your quick guide, your quick reference guide, you get a couple of dice, your templates. You basically get everything that you need to get playing the game. And most importantly, obviously, well, you don't really get your army list, but you're going to be able to get that. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump back to the Cathay and we're going to explain a little bit kind of what any other faction would do once they've picked the faction that they're choosing. Okay, so you've chosen your faction and you've decided you're going down whatever route. It's not Bretonnians or Tomb Kings, so you don't really need to. But if you are doing the Bretonnians, this is essentially the other book that you need to get, which is the Forces of Fantasy. If you're going to do the Tomb Kings, you're going to get the Ravaging Horde. Now, if you are doing Grand Cathay, it's a little bit different. You only need this, which is your Arcane Journal. Now, depending on what other factions you choose, there is also an Arcane Journal available to that army. Now, it's mostly flavorable text. There's a little bit of lore in here. But for the other factions, you will have like a couple of different army builds and things like that. We are going to talk about building your army in the next video. So this one is basically what to buy to get you to that point. So for me, for my Grand Cathay, this is exactly how I've done it. I started off with the Grand Cathay Battalion. Now, all of the battalion boxes are really good value and really, really good starter points for any army that you choose outside of Bretonnians and the Tomb Kings. So we'll just ignore them. Now, some are better than others. The Chaos Warriors the one is really good because of the options you can do with the chariots, and you can essentially get a hero out of that box straight away, whereas this one you can't. You are going to need to add them in, but Cathay are new, so we'll kind of stick with them, and this is the army that I'm jumping into. So this box is brilliant for me. It gives me 30 infantry, 2 cannons and 10 cavalry. Now, how you build this will be the sort of the best to get the best out of the box. Now, from what I've done, once I've got this, I have then ordered myself a Masters, the Gate Masters and the Celestial Cities, this little guy here. This one is brilliant, and a lot of the factions have these little sort of mounted hero, foot hero type boxes. So I've got myself one of these. I'll eventually get a second one so I can switch the roles around, so I can have a standard bearer on a horse or a hero on foot, and vice versa. I've also got myself a Longma, a Shengun Lord, which is basically my big character. Outside of getting my big character, which would be Mao Ying, the dragon. So this basically gives me everything I need to start building and playing small games, which I can then slowly expand upon once I've wrote my list, which we're going to cover in the next video. So once I've got this, how am I going to build the battalion? Well, the battalion box is an interesting thing because you do have a lot of options here. The cannons, even though you do get two, can be built either as two great cannons or two rockets. Again, complete personal preference right now. For myself, I'm going to be getting a second one of these boxes and eventually having 3 cannons and 1 rocket. I prefer the cannons over the rockets, so that's why I'm going to have more, but I would still like a rocket in my collection if I ever choose to field one. My infantry, I am building 2 units of 15. The reason why I'm doing that is it gives me in 2 nice little blocks of infantry to move around the table and do the things that my game needs me to do. And then when I go to expand that army with another battalion force, I'm then able to get 10 of those models and bump up those units to 20, and then the final 10 guys I'm able to have another bits and bobs there. So it really kind of works it out. Well, I'll have a 20 spare, so then I'll be able to have 2 units of halberds as the small little flanking detachments. The cavalry, I'll just build another unit of 10 cavalry. So this is a great box. Now, this isn't the only great box, so we're going to use another example. Let's look at the Empire box. So here we see the Empire of Man, and the Empire of Man has quite a lot of troops. Now, it does obviously have the steam tank, which is really handy because you're going to be able to do some really cool stuff. You're going to be able to build a commander out of that, or you're going to have a standard steam tank, which is kind of cool because you kind of almost got a HQ there. Now, you are going to be able to get at least, you're going to have 30 state troops and 30 missile troops. So in all, you've got yourself 2 units. Now, you can have 1 big block, or you can break that down to 2 15s, or however you want. And a lot of the battalion boxes have that vibe. All right, so they're really good to start off with. Once you've got your core of your army, you're then looking at some really cool stuff. So going back to the Cathay, we'll look at what I'm going to be adding to my army after I've done my core basic troops. As we can see, the Cathay don't have that many options, but the reason for that is they are a brand new faction. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing personally, once I've got my 2nd battalion box, is I'll probably add 2 Sky Lanterns to my collection and 2 Sentinels to my collection, giving me a good collection of models to build that 2,000 point list. So your Arcane Journal is really going to help dictate how you build your army going forward. You can do your standard army, Grand Army, which is you'll find either in your Forces of Nature or your Ravaging Hordes book. Your Arcane Journal is going to kind of give you a little bit more of a thematic list. So, as an example, the Bretonnian army has a list that is all about the Crusades, the Bretonnian Crusades, which is built effectively around the knight. Obviously, Bretonnians are all about the knights, but you basically get that gist. It's all about the knights. You get a couple of additional magic items, a couple of different options, and your army composition kind of changes. The same with the exiled princes, the sort of border princes list. you're going to get a different sort of feel and vibe to that list. And these are known as armies of infamy. So they're kind of like themed and thematic lists. Now, we know coming in the very soon there is a Arcane Journal known as Cetra's War, which is going to center around Cetra from the Tomb Kings attacking the Border Princes and the Dwarven holds in that region around Barrack-Var and on all of that kind of areas. If you play Warhammer Total War, you'll kind of know the area that he's hitting. Now, this is kind of cool because there are a number of armies of infamy, not just for the Tomb Kings, but for these armies that are in that area. So if you're going to play dwarfs, you're going to get a Slayer list, which is super exciting. If you get the Border Princes, are also going to get another army list for them, which is really cool. This gives you a little bit more options if you play those factions. So you've got to remember that you want to get your core units and your core army, and then you want to get the little Arcane Journals that give you that expanse of open up the routes of where you want to go. So that's pretty much the video. So in the next video, what we're going to be doing is looking at actually how to create a list. Unlike games like Horus Heresy and 40k and Age of Sigmar, the army building in the old world is very different. It's very much like how Warhammer Fantasy Battle used to be, and it can kind of be a little bit tricky when you first look at it. And I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of percentages and a lot of little ways it's worded, and it can kind of seem a little bit overwhelming. A little bit like how the Horus Heresy's new army creation is incredibly overwhelming because it's incredibly new, but once you get your head around it and have a good read of it, it becomes relatively simple. Age of Sigmar and 40k are very, very easy in comparison, although 40k is a lot more simpler than Age of Sigmar. So they do have their little bit of complexities, but these can throw new players. So this is what the videos are there for, to hopefully help new players guide and navigate you through this sort of overwhelming bit of information. So if you find that helpful, let me know in the comments below. Like the video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. We're slowly growing really well, and like I said, you might help me become a Warhammer influencer one day. Probably not. Who cares if I am? Who knows? But either way, I'm still going to be making content. So in the next video, we're going to be working on army lists, and I'm going to look and show you how to build an army. All right, catch you in the next one. Bye bye.